Hey, it's T, and I'm so excited in this episode to come to you. Kids just want to have fun, right? And who doesn't want to have fun? We might have different ideas of what fun is, but who doesn't want to have fun? So this is going to be a great episode. Um, so we're in the very beginning of the school year, and some things I'm hearing from parents are things like, how can I get her to? He just doesn't want to. And we're all spending a little bit more time, most of us are spending a little bit more time at home while our kids are learning, however that is happening. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to offer you 5 different activities, types of activities that you are going to be able to modify based on a few different variables. Of course, your child's age and development level is one, and I'm going to offer examples for the younger ages from, kind of like preschoolish ages. And I'm also going to offer an example way out at the teen years. And then you can modify, or you can, ask me how it might be appropriate to modify in between. So age is one of the variables. The other variables have to do with your child or your children. And I've talked in the past about being a great observer of your child, right? Like, you are the adult expert on your child. So you know whether your child moves really fast and is really bouncy, or is like super intense. Maybe they're intense and they move fast. So you have a good understanding of the general energy of your child. And so you are going to be able to modify how you um, how you talk to them about the activity, and how you do the activity to meet them where they are. Don't try to make, you're not trying to make them something that they're not. You're not trying to make them like something that they don't. But if you know that your child is a little slower moving and more intense, you can do the same activity, but you might talk about it in a different way, and you might approach it in a different way than you would if your child is a little bit faster moving and bouncy and random and not maybe so intense. And I will just, in case this resonates for some of you, um, I guess yoga is where I'm going to go. For anybody who is familiar with yoga, if you've ever done yoga, if you've ever seen yoga, the different poses, and if you've done it, then you know they're in yoga, they're usually called asanas. Sometimes a pose or an asana is easier to come into when you're approaching it from a certain way. It could be from a certain shape that you're approaching this specific pose, or it could be from like a warmed up, like you just need to warm up before you get into it. So there's all different ways to get into different poses. There's all different ways to approach different activities. And that's what I'm asking you to do here, is kind of think about your child and their energy. And if you were going to create a great way for them to get into this activity, and a way to talk about it and be excited about it, that's where I'm going to ask you to, like, maybe mirroring their energy, an energy that you think is going to be very inviting for them to come into an activity. I hope that makes some sense. Okay, so we have 5 activities I'm going to share with you. They're not extraordinarily specific, but the first kind of activity is a hands-on activity. And the example that I have for that is, and I'm going to give some examples, at least for the littles, could be an example that helps them build literacy on the reading side and literacy, and it could be an example that helps them on the mathematical side. And so a hands-on activity could be something like related to, I'm just going to say slime. okay? Because I think that boys and girls like slime, or pick your fun material of choice. But I'm going to pick slime. So you could create a book about how to make slime. Your child could create this book, and you could provide the materials. And that would be on the literacy side. On the mathematical side, it could be, hey, let's see, what are the ingredients and how much of which ingredient you need to create something that's more slimy. And maybe you start with something from the internet, or maybe you let them start with something from scratch and see how it goes. But something hands-on that they can actually get into is going to be great for a younger child. I would say, even your own child again, but for ages up to, even like 9 or 10, can really just have a whole lot of fun with that. They can do more complex things, but for the littles, just being able to mix and squish things between their hands is going to be really, really fun. And so, all right, I'm going to modify it now. Slime. I have 2 teenage boys, right? How would we do something with slime? I probably would introduce this as like a fun thing, like, hey, let's see who can make the slimiest slime in the house. And maybe the 4 of us each try it, or maybe we like team up, and nothing is off limits. Like, you can use the internet, you can use whatever. Maybe we put a limit on the ingredients, like we have to use what's in the house, or you can only spend $10 per team or something like that. But make it like super fun, however it's going to be fun for your child. That would be how it might be fun in our house. So that's a hands-on activity. Number 2 is a physical activity, something like where you get some physical movement into something. And so just to make it a little bit more specific, so if we're doing something, again, with the littles, that we want to help them build literacy, right? And I'm going to throw in a little bit of Montessori here. The sounds are really important with literacy. The letters come after the sound. So if you're dealing with a child who does not yet know how to read, because they're 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and they don't fully know how to read, 5, 6 even, then the sounds are more important. And so it could be something like, what rhymes with cat, or and I know I said physical movement, right? So could be, and they say hat, and what's the first sound in hat? And so you make a game out of that sound, and like breathing heavier, getting physical movement into it. They say bat, and what's the first sound of bat? B. And so you can do a physical movement with that as well. And so just bringing physical movement into this. I think with teens, like in my house, my 2 kids, again, it could be something where there's like a little bit of competition and fun involved, but we don't want to make it too much like somebody always wins. And so I have, one of mine is very cardio, and one of mine is very strong and anaerobic. So it might be something more like just dexterity, some kind of physical movement, like who can do the most jumping jacks, or who can jump the most times, or whatever. Just little fun activities. And I guess you're getting the idea that in my house, like, competition is the way to like engage and just play and competition comes into that. So physical movement. And so if keeping that literacy piece in mind with the littles, I just want to build on that for a second here. you can even do something like this. You take the physical element out of it, but you can do, the rhyming thing and the sound thing, even like at the dinner table, while you're eating, might be a fun thing to do. Um, if you're approaching it in a fun way and you're inviting your kids in a fun way, then that could be something fun for them. Okay, number 3 type of activity. And I love this one. I love this one because there is literally no preparation involved for the adult. Number 3 is a scavenger hunt. And so for younger kids, it could be a scavenger hunt where if you're leaning towards, hey, let's do something, maybe build some some math into this. You could say, if this is like a second grader, you could say, or a third grader, bring me 3 times 3 blades of grass, and then so they bring you and they count them out, or they put 3 and then 3 and then 3, and it's 9, and it's great. Or like for little kids, it would be like, bring me 3 blades of grass, bring me 2 of something, and they get to maybe choose what that is. If you're building literacy, if you're building that sort of the phonics awareness, you could say, find all of the things in the house that you can bring me that start with the sound. And if they don't, if they're not getting it, you could say, like fun, and just make sure you give an example so they got the right sound. Now the trick here for you to realize is, if they brought you your phone, that's a good thing. It begins with, we're not worried about the letters. They don't understand that it starts with P, H instead of F. And that's an advanced thing. That's a diphthong, and that's like for 2nd or 3rd grade or whatever, whenever they're teaching that these days. But let's keep it age appropriate. So if you said the sound, that's what you mean, and don't try to do anything fancier, because that will confuse them. Scavenger hunt. So in my house, and we're gonna actually be doing this soon, we're gonna do a scavenger hunt and find things that we didn't even know were in the house, and have everybody guess where we found them. So like each one of us will go find things that maybe we didn't realize we had. We think that nobody will know where they are, and then have people guess, and just make it like a fun thing, like kind of like whatever, like the household game show, right? Like, where did I find this? Where would you expect to find this? And again, it's a scavenger hunt. It's fun, it's creative, and there's no preparation. So you gotta love that. At least I do. All right, so that was number 3. We had a hands-on activity with physical movement, a scavenger hunt. And then number 4 is family stories. And these, so I'm gonna go backwards here. So for me, with my teens, I would say like, hey, is there anything, would you like to hear a story about Papa or me when we were younger, and what age, or what topic or whatever, but just, everything is on the table. What story would you like to hear, or what would you like to hear that you've never heard, or a story that I've heard about grandma and grandpa or whatever. And so that might be a little bit, it's a little nuanced for how to like hook in maybe a teen. But from tween on down, it gets a little easier to see how they might like to hear. And then really down, under the age of, 9 or 10, you can more invite them, like, would you like to hear the story of my first day on a bus, and what happened to me and what I came across, and or whatever, or the story of my first puppy or whatever it is. But family stories really will help to create that sense of family, community, and you know, your young child might even like to make a book out of their own story, a piece of their own story, or maybe out of a piece of yours. So that's another thing. And then number 5, this comes back to letting kids have their own, make some of their own choices. No matter what it is that is in front of you for the day or is in front of them, whether it is, reading a book or, learning some math or what have you, see what ways that you can give them real choices. And I love this. Actually, a lot of these, I was inspired by, I don't even remember what, but I read a blog in the last week or two and just had so many fun ideas that I'm kind of blowing out here. But one of the things in that blog was like, reading doesn't have to be Charles Dickens, and certainly for our 8-year-olds, it's not appropriate. But like comic books are books, and there's illustrated novels, and there's just lots and lots of different choices. So making some of those available and part of the rota, part of the things that they can choose from, is just a great idea. And I will just share on the teen side, just that whole choice aspect. This was a few years back, actually, when my older was in 8th grade and he was making his choices for his classes in high school for his freshman year. And he didn't have that many choices to make. There's the math, the science, the English, and things like that. But he did have a couple choices to make. And one of the things that he chose was introduction to guitar. And I remember approaching that conversation, because he and I, got on the computer and did this together. I remember thinking, okay, well, so there's introduction to computer science and there's introduction to mechanical drawing and da-da-da-da. And I already had like the top 3 choices in my head chosen for his elective. And he said introduction to guitar. And I was like, wow, buddy, really? And he said, yeah, remember, Mom, like I took a few lessons when I was 4, and then like I stopped because I just wasn't interested anymore. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, I've been kind of thinking back to that, and I wish I kept up with it, and like this is my opportunity to get back into it. So I did not go into my first top picks for him, with the computer science and the engineering drawing and whatever the third one was. I asked him a question, I got that, and I was like, wow, he thought about this. That's fantastic. And so what that has turned into is that now he's in his 4th year. He's just starting his 4th year in high school, and he's taken guitar every single year, and he's gotten so much better. I don't know how many guitars he has, but now he's like selling his guitars to his younger brother, and his younger brother is amazing on the guitar, and they're both learning in school but also teaching themselves a whole lot, and they've just gotten so into it and so good. It's really amazing. And I think back to, what if I had made a different decision and I had steered him, or forced him, worse, tried to force him to do something else, and he didn't do that. I just think, things would be just very different. And so he, was able to make that choice, was able to feel a sense of control over what he would be wanting to do and then take it further. So I wanted to share that as an example for with an older child. I think I'm going to pull the plug there. That's an awful lot that I've shared with you. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that you have fun and that you inspire and have some fun with your child or your children using one or more of these suggestions, really, these soft suggestions. And I would love to hear about what happens for you, which suggestion you choose, how it goes. So please do feel free to share. You can pop me an email at support@relationalparents.org, or you can always feel free to share in the Relational Parents Facebook group. All right, take good care. Until next time, bye for now.